Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday, and we're glad to be delivering this week's episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Mike?
It is going well. Good to be back. I have missed you all. I've missed being part of the show for 2 weeks or so. But yeah, good to be here. August is, galloping away. We're at the middle of the month. And yeah, having a good summer. Been going to the beach a lot, actually.
Beach?
Yes, I like the beach.
Really?
Me and Stella have been going to Reefs, which is a part of Rockaway Beach. It's like, Rockaway Beach, of course, people who may not be from New York, you may know the song by the Ramones, but Rockaway kind of makes up a bunch of different areas, and Reefs is one of those areas.
Wow.
Yeah, nice.
That's interesting, man. I'm not a big beach person.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I like pools more than beaches. I gotta be honest. Like pool wins over beach every time, but beach is kind of right below. I like the waves. I like looking out at the ocean, and lately with a shark attack in Rockaway about a week or so ago, I was literally doing a Roy Scheider for a bunch of my time there, just looking at the ocean, seeing if anything's popping. Yeah, so.
Yeah, my girlfriend, Tina, is very pale, and the beaches does not agree with her, so we don't go to the beach.
Oh, I'm pale too, don't get me wrong. But I still go. I put on sunblock. I get a little bit of a tan, a little bit. But yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm looking to see if there's any like sea life. One time I was there about a year or two ago, I saw a dolphin, which was nice. And yeah, I mean, you never know what you're going to find in the ocean, Mike. The ocean is a mysterious place.
It truly is, man. I mean, especially when you really think about it. It's like being in fucking outer space or something like that,
It really is. I mean, and it's been a weird year for the ocean, in the news and stories, and the homemade submarine where the bunch of people died, and that whole thing. And it's just, the sea always wins, Mike Hill. That's what I like to say. The sea always wins. You can't beat water,
No, absolutely not, man.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah. So before we get too deep into the show, let's talk about the Horsemen, our compatriots. So starting the week off, we've got Horror Wolf 666, a brother horror podcast brought to you by Brandon Legion. Brandon, where we talk about movies, Brandon talks to filmmakers, actors. It's like more of an interview kind of thing. So that's his trip.
Yes, the people behind the film, so to speak.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we've got Jackie Smith with Into the Necrosphere. Literally the only metal/music podcast I listen to regularly.
Yes, I still haven't found the podcast I'm looking for with my metal. I don't know if it exists. Maybe one day I'll make it exist. But until then, we have the excellent Into the Necrosphere, which I enjoy.
Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is kind of the podcast I've been doing for the last it feels like my entire life, actually. And
yeah, long ass time.
Yeah,
long ass time.
It's like potentially a work. Actually, not potentially. I would say perpetually a work in progress. You know what I mean? Always finding new angles with that show.
Yeah, man. On Thursday, guess what, kids? You're listening to it right now. It's the Necromaniacs podcast coming to you each and every Thursday. We are the greatest horror podcast in the world, so don't forget that. And make sure you tell a friend. On Friday, we have the artist formerly known as Break the Apocalypse. Right, Michael?
That's right.
They have a new name, Break the Apocalypse. And you know what? I'm a terrible brother because I can't think of the new name right now. How about that?
Oh, no. If you subscribe, though, will you get...
But however, hold on. I was just handed a note by my producer, Spitball Media. Spitball Media. Thank you, producer. Thank you. What do you call it? He's working very hard because I'm half crazy. Friday, Spitball Media with John Draper, my brother, Shaheen, and B. Show Brian. No longer talking about politics, no longer talking about current events. They talk about movies, they talk about television and pop culture. How about that, Mike?
You know, it's probably good that they're veering away from politics, because these days you get hit with a baseball bat, I think, if you talk about too much politics.
Yeah, and you know what? Things are divisive enough. Things are horrible enough. Why not get an escape with your podcast, right, Mike?
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, Spitball Media coming to you every Friday. On Saturday, you have the day off. Enjoy your summer. Go to the beach, go to the pool, go to the movies. But on Sunday, we have the excellent Soul Knox podcast. All right, Mike?
That's right. That's brought to you by my buddy Carl Hikara. And we also like to mention that we have a newer member. We have Iblis Manifestations, which is doesn't come out on a specific day of the week, but it just drops out of the ether from within the void. Cheyenne.
Yeah, that's like how Migla just drops a new album sometimes. Like they don't promote it, they don't let you know. This podcast just kind of comes out. That's kind of cool.
Just emerges, and it's always really good. And I've had Cheyenne as a guest on Everything Went Black maybe a year and a half ago. Excellent band, Trivax, too.
Cool. Welcome to the family, as they say.
So have you seen anything of note?
I would like to promote something by a good friend of mine, Mr. Eddie McNamara. Ed wrote some of the liner notes in the Confusion discography, plug, that is out now, that you can pick up on CD, vinyl, and digital, folks. My band, Confusion. Ed contributes some great liner notes to that. But now Ed has released his debut fiction novel called Brooklyn Hardcore. A while back, Ed put out a really cool cookbook, a vegan cookbook called Toss Your Own Salad. How about that, Michael? Yeah. But this is not a cookbook. It is a work of fiction, kind of noir, a crime noir, so to speak, as he put it, that is set in the early 1990s in South Brooklyn with the hardcore scene as its backdrop. How's that, Mike?
Sounds interesting.
Yes. I have not read this book. I just got my copy, actually. I have not read it. I'm going to start reading it this evening after we are done with this podcast. I'm very excited to check it out. It is called Brooklyn Hardcore. It is for sale right now on Amazon Prime. Pick it up by Ed McNamara. How about that?
That sounds awesome. I think I'm going to order a copy myself.
Yes, you should, as should all of our listeners. In particular, the listeners who like hardcore music or like, the music of the early 90s, the kind of the meaner third wave, kind of darker, more, less happy hardcore, the negative stuff that was kind of coming out back then, as Ed put it to me not too long ago. So, yeah, that's kind of the backdrop of what's going on in this book. The book is not about hardcore per se, but the people in the book are a part of that scene. So I think that's really cool.
That is cool. That sounds like it'd be a really good backdrop for a crime story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so that is my plug. And I have one more plug, really, from the fine folks at Severin. I just got in the mail today something I pre-ordered a few months ago. It is very little seen, perhaps not seen at all in America, television film from our buddy Sergio Martino from back in 1992. It is called Private Crimes. It was produced by our favorite gal ever, Mike, Edwige Fenech. She is also in this movie. It was a 4-part, 6-hour television miniseries in Italy, and it is coming to America for the first time ever. It is a giallo, so I am fucking psyched. Apparently, it's got some Twin Peaks vibes to it as well. So, yeah, Severin just put this puppy out, Private Crimes. I mean, if this doesn't have us written on it, Mike, I don't know what does.
I think we should definitely cover this for sure.
Yes, yes. Even Ray Lovelock is in it. We've got some alum, Paolo Malco, who was in the New York Ripper. So we've got some cool, Italian old school cats in it. Alida Valli, who's in Suspiria, is also in it. Yeah, I'm excited to watch this. I'm definitely probably going to throw this on immediately this week. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. You check anything out cool recently?
Yeah, actually, I saw the last voyage of the Demeter this past Saturday. Yeah.
Yes, I want to see that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a whole thing, man. Like it was a Saturday date night. We went to the 11:45 showing.
Oh, that's late.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was kind of like a spur of the moment thing, and we wanted to eat first, and then the next showing was 11:45. So it was like, okay, cool, midnight movie. I went to the AMC Newport Center in Jersey City, which is like a new location for me. Now that I live here, the Menlo Park AMC, a little bit off the beaten path. I still go there,
Yeah.
Still go there. It's not too far away. But being that the short turnaround time, we wanted to stay more local. So I went there, and I got to say, that is my first and last time going to the AMC Newport Center.
Warp, warp. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Not a wonderful theater, Michael?
No. And I know that I spoke, I had disparaging words for the Menlo Park one. And that one looks like a palace compared to this one, man. It was like, the first thing to note is the theater smelled like a locker room as soon as I walked in there, man. It was like...
I know that smell. Like, look, some theaters are kind of ghetto, and I pretty much know that smell. Before we got started, I commented that was pretty much the smell of when we went to see the remake of the Blair Witch Project at the Theater in Park Slope, which once upon a time, folks, was a wonderful movie theater that was really nice, quality place that just went down the toilet before Nighthawk, a really cool company, took it over. So Mike agreed that that's probably what it smelled like. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last days of the pavilion.
I know. It was not, I couldn't believe what that place had become. Very sad. But it is now a wonderful theater called Nighthawk in Park Slope, which if you're in New York, check it out. But Mike, so locker room smell, I guess it didn't fully deter you from seeing the movie, though.
Oh, no. I mean, we'd already spent $20 on parking, which is another thing. It's like, there's no, they don't validate your parking ticket or anything like that. There's like, it's part of a mall, but there's like paid parking. You know what I mean? You can't.
But that's a lot for a mall, though. Jesus.
Either that, or you can take like a bus there or something like that, or I don't know. And it's like right in that part of Jersey City that's right outside the Holland Tunnel. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, it's not that great over there.
No, it's not the best spot. And then, because it's late, I'm like, something, man? I haven't had a Coca-Cola in like years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's Saturday night. It's late. I didn't really feel like coffee, so I was like, okay, let me get some caffeinated beverage. You know how like those machines where you dial in, like they just give you a cup. Like they don't get a soda there anymore. They give you a cup, and there's like this soda machine that's got every single flavor imaginable, right? So
yeah, those are kind of cool though. Those are cool. Yeah,
I know, but this one was malfunctioning, and I got like a combination of like every single flavor soda in my cup.
Oh no, that blows.
Yeah, so and we got to the theater. There was like one other person there, so that kind of made up for it. You know what I mean?
That can be fun.
Yeah. So, but the movie itself, though, I got to say, man, I back it.
I've heard good things about it. I like the trailer, so yeah, I want to see it.
I think you should. I think it's like one of these things where you are gearing yourself up to not like it because it's like a big production, but I gotta say, man, it delivered. It had atmosphere. You know, it was like the acting was good. It was, you know, a really cool period piece. It tells the story of Chapter 7. Obviously, it's expanded upon into almost a 2-hour movie, but it takes the premise from the Dracula novel and makes it into a full feature-length film.
Awesome. I mean, okay, so that obviously, as many know, is a part of the Dracula novel. Does it kind of add like new lore, you know what I'm saying, to
yes,
it? Like new
it does.
story?
Yes, it
does.
Okay,
cool.
Because the Dracula is more like not the Nosferatu Count Orlok in this.
Right. Okay.
And, you know, there's no, you know, none of the characters from the novel. Like there's no Jonathan Harker. You know,
right.
There's another guy at the end who survives. You know, I'm not giving away too much of the premise of the story, but it definitely leaves itself open for another film if this one does well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a fucking cool idea for a movie, you know?
Yeah. And then I watched Amityville Horror, which old classic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That movie still rules. I love it. I mean, some people, whatever, have beef. I have no beef. I love that movie.
I definitely don't have any beef with that movie. I think it's great. And just a little bit of late breaking news. By the time this episode comes out, this particular episode, it'll be in the past. But listener Nathan messaged me that there's a thing going on at IFC this whole month of August, which is like a midnight movie thing at IFC in Manhattan. And this coming weekend, well, last weekend when you're listening to this,
yes, true.
Event Horizon is playing on the big screen.
And that is one of Mike Hill's favorite horror movies. So yeah,
totally. I mean, there's like a 70% chance I might make it to that. So you guys will find out.
Definitely one of the better bright spots of the maligned 90s, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt.
I mean, if we did a top 10 horror movies of the 90s, it is in there. It's in the top 10. You know.
Yeah.
Which would be an interesting list. Bit of a scary list in more ways than one, but it would be an interesting list. I have weird 90s horror hate. I gotta be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot that came out in the 90s. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it was a low point in American horror.
Yes, and as I've said before, it is the fault of the success of one movie.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Yes. I blame it on the success and Academy Awards of Silence of the Lambs. It's unintentional, of course, but that is what happened. Yeah. Anyway.
So as you guys know, we have a Necro voicemail line. Or if you want to call in and leave a voicemail, you can go ahead. That number is 908-913-0782. That's 908-913-0782. And this week, we only got one call. We got Mike from Telford, longtime caller, longtime listener.
Yes.
Well, not too long of a listener, but longtime caller.
Yes, I look forward to hearing his calls. He's always got something cool to say.
Definitely, man. I'm really stoked that he's dropping in on us. So here we go.
Good morning, my Necro brothers. It's Mike from Telford here. On my way to work this morning, Friday morning. Just wanted to tell you I fucking enjoyed the shit out of that episode yesterday. Messiah of Evil, it's the fucking hidden gem. I guess it's not so hidden now. I mean, it gets a lot of praise now, and it deserves it. Captures a unique atmosphere of that time. Anyway, I don't have to go into that. You know it. It's a great, great movie. That Blu-ray coming out in October is on a newer label, Radiance Films. I'm excited about that too, even though I own that movie and I have several editions of that movie, but excited to see that. So, and you guys mentioned a few other things that, you know, I don't know. You guys have been doing this almost 10 years. I just latched on the last couple, so I don't know if you covered these already, but Mr. Scandato brought up Lamora, A Child's Tale of the Supernatural. You guys should definitely see that. It's not anywhere near as gory as something like Messiah of Evil or things that happened around that time period, but it's a fucking great movie with the atmosphere. And like Mr. Hill was talking about liminal spaces, that's definitely a movie like that. And it's just unique. It's a unique film. It's definitely worth your time. It would be awesome to hear you. That scared Jessica to death. It's another great one. There's a lot of things around that time period. I guess 68 to 78, they were saying American Nightmare. It makes a lot of sense. There's another movie that was made somewhere near me, I believe, called Malatesta's Carnival of Blood. That also has a really cool, unique look to it. And you guys brought up Last House on Dead End Street. Have you done an episode on that? That movie, big parts of that were shot near where I grew up in Oneonta, New York. And as a matter of fact, my ex-girlfriend took a film class at a college up there, and Paul Jensen taught that class. He's in that movie. He's the blind guy in that movie. And he turns up in some Universal commentaries and shit and documentaries. And I have a fucking huge soft spot for that movie, too. So keep up the good work, fellas. I'm home alone this weekend. I got to work Saturday, and I'll be watching a ton of shit this weekend. So hopefully something cool will pop up, and I can recommend it to you. Love the show, fellas. See you next Thursday.
So, yeah, he recommended some cool-ass movies, movies that I would 100% like to do. The two in particular, of course, is one that we've mentioned, Lamora, A Child's Tale of the Supernatural, which I believe is in my collection somewhere. And the other is Let's Scare Jessica to Death, which is a movie I can't believe we haven't covered yet.
We talk about doing that all the time. So, yeah, we definitely got that into it. It's about time we picked that one up, too.
I think it's about time. And honestly, both of those movies are kind of American Nightmare movies. This wonderful phrase that I think really fits the bill, that kind of kicks off in the post Night of the Living Dead in 68. And honestly, I would say wraps up at around 80, honestly. Some people are going to say 78. I'm going to say 80 because I want The Shining to be a part of this. Even though The Shining is a studio film, it's not an American indie. I think it's a part of the crew because it is pre-slasher, Mike Hill. You know?
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah, they're a part of the movies that we have sung the praises of many, many times, movies that we've covered quite a bit and enjoy. But yeah, so don't be surprised, listeners, if you hear those movies covered in the very near future.
Yeah, definitely, man. So what do we got in store for these guys this week, Mike?
This week, we're stepping into the modern era once again. It's a movie Mike and I are a bit bummed that we only heard about in 2023, unfortunately. It is an excellent Serbian vampire film titled Vampir, Vampir. Art house horror, right, Mike, so to speak?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
It's artsy, atmospheric.
Artsy, yes. Excellent Euro horror, fits the cool Euro horror mode, but with the kind of the modern vibe. I would call it, maybe a bit of a cousin to like at times I had a little bit of a Trouble Every Day vibe, and a Speak No Evil vibe. No, just like it's modern Euro horror, right?
Yes, with also kind of a folk horror element to it as well.
Yeah, and right out of the gate, I as I'm watching, I'm just kind of saying to myself, and I was telling Mike and our quality control officer Rennie Rosmini, that this is very like vampire Wicker Man.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
that's the vibe I got. Like total Wicker Man vibes. Only it's now. It's not the early 70s, and it's not the English countryside or whatever. It's Serbia. So the people are even more creepy than they were. The townsfolk are more creepy to me than they were in The Wicker Man.
Actually, this movie was recommended to us by this came to our attention by Rennie. He's the guy who brought it up.
Yes. Well, that's why he's an excellent quality control man, and he's on the the payroll. I mean,
Now, one of the things that's troubling about this is that, Mike, you and I watched this on Shudder.
Yes.
Yeah. However, just yesterday, I wanted to give this another rewatch, and I noticed that it's gone from the Shudder catalog.
Yeah, so it's good news, bad news, folks. However, you can find this movie. If you have AMC Plus, it is on there. And we did another search where we believe it might actually also be on Apple, but you might have to pay a little bit on Apple, or I'm not sure if it's actually on Apple for free if you're a regular Apple subscriber. It is out there. I have a funny feeling some of you listeners might have seen this movie while it was on Shudder. But if you didn't, I got to be honest, it's worth the dig. It's worth the $5, whatever, $4, and pay the money and see the movie, Mike. No?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is definitely something you should check out. One way or the
other. Story takes place in rural central Serbia. I mean, it's far away from Serbian film, but at the same time, it's even got Serbian film vibes. No.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not nowhere near as brutal as that film. But,
no.
Yeah.
But I think the Serbian people, and I hope I'm not offending any of our Serbian listeners, you have an unsettling vibe to you in film. Okay, so that is what I'm getting at. Your characters, I feel like you're all got something to hide. There's a lot of cat, wait the canary. There's wolves in sheep's clothing, and then there's just outright creepy people. So that's what I kind of felt the kinship with Serbian film, honestly. It makes me kind of want to see more Serbian horror movies.
I agree. What's also interesting about this is that the writer, director, and star, Branko Tomovic.
Yes.
Yeah, he's actually from the Carpathians in Serbia.
And I got to say, he played a really good, straight man / unassuming kind of, victim to be, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? I thought he was excellent, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a very personal movie. It comes across to him that, since he wrote it, directed it, and starred in it, this is something that he was close with,
I mean, I fucking empathize with him. You really kind of feel it. I feel like, I don't know, that's what I took away from it. I got the empathy and I felt bad for the guy, and I questioned quite a few of his decisions, but the care factor was there. Now, this movie is a Serbian film, but it's also a UK/German co-production, shot in English and Serbian, of course, so you do have the subtitles. It has a release date of October 13th, 2021 at the, I believe, Stiges Film Festival. I got to be honest, even with the homework, couldn't really figure out exactly when American audiences were able to see this movie. There's even a chance that Shudder might have been the first place this aired, but we couldn't figure it out because Shudder yanked it. And with some Google searches, I wasn't able to figure out when it came to Shudder, unfortunately.
It's very mysterious, the whole backstory with this movie,
Yeah, I did find a June 8th, 2021 trailer / write-up of sorts about it on Bloody Disgusting, where they talked about the movie and they said, here's the trailer ahead of the forthcoming Cannes market. Okay, so it was not out yet. I have a feeling it came out in Europe, I guess, in late 2021. But as far as when it landed here, could not figure that out for the fucking life of me, unfortunately. And we like to kind of give you that info, but here we could not.
Yeah, it's let's run down the cast a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, we got like I mentioned, Branko Tomovic as Arno, our main character.
Mm-hmm.
Gorica Ragodic as Vesna.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Joachim Tasik as Father Radosav. Eva
Mm-hmm.
Ross as Baba Draga.
Mm.
And I'm assuming she's probably one of the Germans that were in the cast. And that's basically a small cast acting their asses off, really, in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that there's a scene in particular that has just kind of stayed in my head. It's where he goes to like that bar of sorts, bar restaurant, and he's watching the Serbian dancers, and there's that music playing, and it's just so surreal because it lasts like a long time, and the music is kind of like on a loop, and it's almost like I felt like I was on drugs watching that scene. Like,
it almost reminded me like something out of Calvaire, which is like another movie.
Yes. Okay.
Technically, the movie's Belgian, but it got lumped in with the New French Extremity.
French Extremes, yes.
Yeah, and that's a movie that just got reissued. So, did we ever talk about that movie?
I don't know if we ever gave it an actual episode, so we got to put that on the pile. I don't think we did. No.
Yeah,
we've referenced it a billion times, but I don't think we've actually reviewed it. And it's funny. Our beloved caller mentioned Last House on Dead End Street because we mentioned it.
Yeah.
Now I believe we did do an episode on that movie.
We did.
Okay, I know we did. All right. I think it was one of the long ones actually. So yes, we do have a Last House on Dead End Street episode. You're going to have to do the digging, but it is on the Podbean page somewhere, I believe. So,
man, one of these days, if this was like a real operation, I would go back and make a list of all the episodes, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I mean, theoretically, you could kind of plunk down and make like a universal Google sheet or whatever the fuck it's called, and perhaps share that with the listeners. But yeah, that might take a little time. Yeah.
Well, not really. I mean, it would go through, probably take a nice Saturday afternoon or something like that. But it'd be good to have that data like present,
yes,
so we know, we could tell, well, episode 81, we did this,
But yeah, that's out there. And it's funny, you mentioned Calvaire and the French Extremes. I mean, to me, those are excellent examples of really good modern Euro horror. I know, we cover a lot of the 70s and 80s and giallo stuff in here, Italian films. But I feel like these kind of movies are excellent representations of, quality modern European films, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that we covered several of those like back when we first started out, because we started the podcast sort of at the tail end of that whole explosion. So there was, we covered Martyrs, stuff like Trouble Every Day we did recently, but that was something that was on our radar back then. So it is
totally very important. And we did Inside. So there might be 2 or 3 that we've missed, and those are definitely probably TBDs for sure. But yeah, it is wild, like that. It's not super common that the writer and director is the star in these kind of movies. But as you said, I mean, obviously it's something that as an actor and a director that it is something personal for him as someone, Serbian and, who probably took his vampire lore very seriously. And of note, it was filmed during full-blown pandemic era too, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it had that vibe of like a small cast and isolation and that kind of thing,
Yes, filming was supposed to take place in June of 2020 and got pushed to September 2020. Honestly, there's almost very little difference between June and September of 2020 as far as, what was going on in the world. I mean, there was no live music. A lot of TV stuff was either muted or being shot very bizarrely, and so are certain movies. And it's cool to see that a movie like this, made it out of the gate,
Yeah, totally. And Well, what's interesting to note is the character Arnaud is it's kind of like Branko Tomovic put himself literally as a character in the movie, because Arnaud has been living in the UK, but he's actually Serbian and he's from that town.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's funny, he had like this, and sometimes his voice was almost like very kind of neutral sounding. You notice that?
Right.
And then other times you would kind of hear the accent, right?
Well, I remember Rennie in our text thread was like, obviously the guy doesn't have an English accent, you know. So,
right.
So
Like,
he caught that right away, that the accent.
Like I wasn't even detecting this English accent. It was almost like this kind of, I don't know if I want to say American, just kind of like this very just hi, hello, kind of just very no affectations at times, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the crux of the plot, after witnessing a crime in London and looking for a place to hide out for a while, Arnaud, of course played by Tomovic, is offered a job by charming yet ruthless Vesna to look after a cemetery in a small remote village in Serbia. He soon starts to have nightmare visions and is frequently visited by the mysterious older woman, Baba Draga, who guides Arnaud into the darkness. Only the village priest, Tasik, seems to be trying to keep him safe from the sinister intentions of the villagers. You know, it's funny, like, what dawned on me, and by the way, there's going to be spoilers, folks, is that the priest was literally the only person who was trying to protect him ultimately. I think that whole cross moment, Mike,
yeah,
was literally him trying to put a fucking cross on his forehead for his own good. But I didn't get that initially. I actually did manage to squeeze out 2 viewings, by the way.
Right.
Because one was a little bit of a sleepier late night viewing, so I did a second viewing. And I got that like the second time around. And the priest meets a very unfortunate fate, but I do feel that the priest was doing that for his good, for his own good. Did you get that?
Well, my take on it was a little bit different. Was that at that point he was already obviously becoming a vampire, and the priest was trying to like vanquish him, you know?
Okay, so you think he was already too far gone?
Yeah.
And the priest may literally have been trying to kill him, perhaps.
That was my take.
I wasn't. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was a trying to kill him or trying to protect him. That's why.
Yeah. So, I mean, the plot of this film is actually pretty straightforward. You know, you kind of see the end coming like way in advance. So this movie really isn't about like, okay, suspense or anything like that. It's really just about atmosphere and darkness, you know?
Well, and it's also about, I mean, fate, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
He came back to that town. Sure, he was hiding out from, some criminals or whatever and trying to save his life. But it was almost as if all the townspeople knew that A, he was coming, B, why he was coming, and C, his fate, right?
Yeah, I would actually put this film up there with in the same category maybe as like Messiah of Evil or something too, you know?
Okay. Yeah. There's that thread of like the person that's pushing everything along, which obviously is the main character 9 times out of 10. But yeah, it is kind of like, is it fate, or is, did the character know at any point just how fucking screwed they were? You know what I'm saying? I mean, he probably didn't initially, like he seemed like he was a fairly normal guy that was at some point was like, okay, this place is fucking bonkers. My life is in danger. I have to get out of here. And when he tries to escape the town, listeners, he literally physically cannot. The town does not let him leave. Like he'll travel on a road and keep coming upon the same signage, right, Mike?
Yeah, which is that's some of my favorite shit in a story like this. Yeah, so there's this kind of weird fiction element to it as well, like a folk horror kind of thing, because there's like this mythology. There are these ancient creatures, that kind of thing. And also, like you were saying, there's just like this inevitability of everything. Like from the minute he shows up in this town, and it's like written that his end is already it's already all predetermined, and that's like kind of the vibe of the entire film, is that he just
which is why everyone is either very kind of shitty to him or just very kind of, I can't even put my finger on how that they're acting. It's just like creepy. I don't know, I guess. But okay, here's my question. The townspeople are not vampires?
No, I think they're all vampires except for the priest.
Okay, I know the priest is not a vampire.
Right.
But we don't really see, well, it's, to me, I was just trying to figure out, like, okay, if everyone here is a vampire, why is he so important? Like, what is his importance?
Well,
did they just want him as a part of the tribe, or is he like the Messiah, quote unquote, to be?
Well, okay, it's almost like a Messiah of evil, where some people aren't vampires. Like I don't think Vesna's a vampire,
right?
And the rest, but the overwhelming majority of the town is filled with vampires.
Yes,
you know what I mean? It's like a vampire town with some non-vampires that live there. And
so you think Vesna is like one of those people who like procures victims, so to speak, kind of thing?
That's my take on it. Yep. And
okay.
Yeah. So there's like this like kind of codependency between the vampires and the non-vampires, but the vampires are the ones running the show over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's a scene where he's imploring Vesna to just drive him out of town, to take him out of town so that he can make a phone call, because surprise, surprise, his phone does not work anywhere in the town.
Yeah, of course.
And she is like, it's a really interesting scene where she's just kind of like, no, I can't have somewhere to go. No, and it's just, and he's harping on, and then she's just like, no, it's not happening. Like, what I'm saying? It's like really, really creepy. You feel really bad for him,
There's a lot of really good use of dream sequences too.
Yes.
Like foreshadowing and, this kind of dread that gets, portrayed in the dream sequences.
Oh, I wanted to make a note of something that I had said in the text thread to you and Rennie about a scene with Vesna that to me was just a total Dracula throwback, where she goes, you can write letters and I'll send out your letters. Like, that is pretty much said to Jonathan Harker by Dracula. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, definitely.
And I thought that was so cool. Like, I don't know. I love that kind of shit. I fucking love that kind of shit. What was the miniseries, the vampire miniseries on Netflix?
Dracula. The British one,
last year.
Yeah.
There's the scene that's totally like a Demeter scene, like in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that kind of stuff.
Oh wait, are you talking about that, or are you talking about Midnight Mass?
Midnight Mass. There's a scene in Midnight Mass that is another total pure Dracula throwback scene that if you're a fan of Dracula like me, you catch. You know what I'm saying? And this was one of those moments, and I kind of like live for those moments when I watch movies like this, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Midnight Mass, I can rewatch that over and over again, man. It's so good.
And they just released set photos of Fall of the House of Usher, which is coming second week of October. I am stoked.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, the trailer's coming real soon. Yeah, that's going to be fucking awesome. But yeah, I mean, again, there are these things that, like, not only was, Dracula nods to me, that there's a bunch of, like, Wicker Man vibes going on here. I feel like, because much like in the Wicker Man, the townspeople are hiding something. They're treating him weird. They're kind of playing games. They're not letting him leave. and very cool of the director to kind of insert that kind of stuff to the movie.
Yeah, it's like everyone knows what's going on except for him, basically. And he's similar to the Wicker Man.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not like the Virgin Sacrifice vibe, but it's the victim vibe, like the victim to be kind of sacrificial vibe, right?
Yeah.
Going on about those dream sequences, that one towards the end where he's in bed and that Baba Draga character, he's like kind of chained up to the bed and they're rolling his intestines out on like a spiked fucking, thing. That was insane.
Oh yeah. That's an actual torture too.
Really?
It was like back in the medieval times. Yeah.
Wow. Like they cut you open, listeners. Okay. This is fun. They cut you open and they reach in and they pull one of your intestines out while you're alive, of course. And they kind of just like wrap it around this spiked device. And then someone kind of, turns the crank of the device as your intestines pull out of you in your eyesight, your line of sight.
What kind of sick fuck comes up with that,
I know. God damn. Jesus. I actually thought that was not a dream. Like at first, like as you're watching it, you actually think it's happening, and then you're kind of grateful that it's a dream sequence.
Yeah, definitely, man.
But yeah, it's dreamy. It's got the art house vibe. It's got the Wicker Man vibes. It's got the Dracula vibes. But at the same time, it's an original film, in my opinion. It's an original vision. It's a really cool vampire movie. I mean, a lot to like,
Yeah, the thing that bums me out the most is I want to watch it again. You know what I mean? I don't have AMC Plus though.
Listeners, this is a challenging episode for some of you. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a challenge, but I think, like I said, if you have to plunk down the money on top of your subscription somewhere, it is definitely worth it. It is a solid film. What do you want to say about the ending?
Well, he, as we see from the beginning, ultimately he falls into the fold of becoming a vampire.
Yeah, the image of him, like the screen caps and like the poster, he's in like full vampire mode. I mean, he's a bald gentleman like me. He's one of the tribe, but he's very pale, and like they have like the really pale makeup on him, and like the blood coming out of his mouth, and the fucking reddish eyes. It's just a really like striking kind of sick image.
It really is, and it's like there's a certain like a morose like sadness at the end of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you really get this like cursed vibe that he has.
Yeah, he didn't want this. He didn't want this. This was not something he signed up for, And I think up to a certain point, he's like being very logical about everything, right? He's kind of like, what the fuck is this? Kind of, right? Because there's another weird creep scene where a bunch of villagers invite him into a dinner. And what did you make of that scene where he eats something and then he kind of stares off almost like into the camera and then he abruptly leaves? What was that about?
Well, it's, he's tasting what to me looked like human flesh.
Yes. Like, but the way it's shot, and listeners, you'll see what I mean. It's like, again, it almost makes for like a definite rewatch quality of things you may not pick up on, honestly, but his expression and just like the music and the vibe, it's just really like fucking masterfully done moment in the movie.
So at the end of the day, man, what will you give this movie?
At the end of the day, what do I give it? I give this a fucking 4.5. I fucking really like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
I gave it a 4, but I love it. I think it was a great film. bummed out, maybe a little angry that I can't watch it again, at my leisure, and maybe
Yes.
if maybe someday a physical copy will come out with this with some extras. That'd be nice.
Yes, I think so. And by the way, I had heard this that, one of the, last year was obviously this banner year for horror movies, right? All the fucking hits that had come out, and we tried to cover as many as we could. But apparently, one of them has no physical release whatsoever. Are you aware of that?
No, what was that? What movie?
It is. Hold on. I should have had this pulled up. Barbarian.
That has no physical
Barbarian
release?
has no physical release. Correct. Yes.
Huh.
I don't know why.
I find that hard to believe.
Let's see. Because I was told this recently, and I heard it, and I was like, it doesn't, Or the company originally had no intention of putting out a Blu-ray. And sure enough, I think they had to make one to meet the demand because there was like no, and like people were making their own on like the gray market basically.
Damn.
So they had to go ahead and make one. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting, man. I figured that.
Yeah, there's a Reddit that says Barbarian not getting a physical release, which is now making me think the ones that I have pulled up here are bootlegs.
Damn.
But this is as of, I think at one point there was no chance of it because you never guess who owns it. Disney.
Really?
And they didn't plan on putting it out, but apparently I think it's either out now or I'm just a little unclear of it. And I guess listeners will set me straight on this one. But yeah, apparently they didn't want to put it out on Blu-ray. Isn't that wild?
Damn. It's nuts.
But yeah, as of March 2023, the Blu-ray was still not out yet. So hold on, I'm gonna set myself straight here as the mode of truth here. And I'm gonna go to Amazon, right? Variant Blu-ray and see if it's there. And it is not. So apparently it is still not out. I think they're all boots. Isn't that wild?
That is wild because I figured that's something that would for sure have a Blu-ray release.
Yeah, and it's just, it goes to show. I think sometimes, look, a big studio will put out a small movie and not really know what the hell to do with it or not know how it's going to do. And sure enough, this is a tremendous movie, and it's one of the biggest horror movies of the year. And it's got great reviews and stuff. And yeah, apparently, no, it does not exist. A real Blu-ray of it does not exist. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
That is a bummer. Hopefully that'll change. But yeah, there are all sorts of homemade ones. I'm seeing this on Etsy and on eBay, and yeah, isn't that wild?
Maybe I'll make my own.
Yeah. Yes, as of June 12th, 2023, still not a word about an official Blu-ray release. I knew I wasn't crazy. Yeah, doesn't exist yet. Wild. That's something I would definitely watch on Blu-ray, right?
Yeah, because there would be extra stuff. It'd be cool. I like all that shit,
Yeah, and I'd like to see if there's extra scenes or whatever. I really enjoyed that movie last year.
Yeah.
But that wraps up another fun-filled episode of Necromaniacs podcast, huh, Mike?
Yeah, and this, if you can see this movie, definitely check it out. If you like kind of weird, slow-moving, atmospheric vampire movies, I think this one's quite unique, actually, in the portrayal of the vampire.
Yes, and let us know what you think via Instagram, Facebook, or what have you, because we love hearing from you. And yeah, man, thank you for all the support.
Yeah, I'd really like to know also who's actually seen this at this point too.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Because this one involves a little bit of work, this episode, unfortunately, which we were not aware of until we literally were, locked and loaded here. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Talk to you next week. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
foreseen and understood at last. Recollections, the symptoms of the